All right, so we're going to step away from the cart for a moment and add product variations to what we're working on. So actually, go ahead and scroll down from product down to a new class. We're going to call it class product variation models.model, or we could even just call it variation. And it's going to be very similar to the product image. But we actually might want an image hooked up with the variation. So depending on what the image is, it might actually make sense to have that product image showing with that variation at some point. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll just do image equals to models.foreign key product image. And we can say null equals true and blank equals true, because we also might not want to do that. We can set a title for it. So title equals models.char field max length equals to 120. And that one we definitely want to have. So we have a title, we have an image, and maybe we want to do a variation price. So price equals to models.decimal field and default. I'm going to have it as 0. So, or actually I'll just leave it as null equal true, blank equals true. So I'm not even going to have a default. We will have to do it at some point that if the variation of the product is more than or more or less or different than the price of the product, we'll have to show that price variation when it happens, if it happens, right? Because in the case that you have like low stock on something, you just want to move it, and the price for the t-shirt is $30 and you want the specific variation to be $20, then that's where we would set it. We'd actually set it in the variation itself. And this is where you could put like a stock keeping unit, so SKU number or a SKU number. That's where you could put something like that. We're going to leave that out for now because we don't really need it for our learning purposes. But all right, so we got a title, we have an image, we have a price. It will come with an ID. Perhaps we want to have active and last updated in here as well. Let's look at our product. We won't really need a slug for it because it's a variation of the product. So when we actually select the product, we will have it in here. But we do want to probably have it foreign keyed to our product somehow. So we could do a many-to-many field within the product, or we could do a foreign key just like what we've done before. This way, I'm going to actually opt for that. So then we have a foreign key to the actual product. So it's actually hooked up to the product this way, and then we have our foreign key to an image. So if we want to add images to that specific variation, we can do that. And then we can have we have a title, and then we have price. Perfect. So that's all we will need for now. So I'm going to define the Unicode of self, and we're going to return probably self.title. That's all we could probably just leave it as that for now. You might want to keep track of inventory at some point, so we should actually consider that later. Is perhaps we'll put inventory in with the product models, or we'll actually make a whole new app to manage our inventory. So let's actually not worry about that right now. But now that we have this variation, we can use this variation and associate it to that product. So let's actually run a schema migration. Up, decimal fields, max digits, and decimal places. I left that out. So max digits equals to, let's say, 100. Decimal places equals to 2. Right, this is what I love about Django, is it'll definitely make sure that you're on your game. So Python manage.py schema migration products -- auto, and then Python manage.py migrate products. All right, so let's run the server. Okay, so now that we have that, let's actually add it into the admin. So I'll just import variation, and I will go to admin.site.register variation. At some point, we are actually going to combine these into the product admin, but just so that's part of the reason why they're just like this. So we'll keep that out for now. All right, so now that we have variation in our admin, let's go and take a look at it. Go into our admin, and we have variations. So if I add a variation, select a product, so I'm going to do product 1, and I'll just title it as small, right? So the variation itself is small. Now already I'm starting to think like, well, maybe we don't want to have the variation itself to be like this, so then we'd have to have small, medium, large, and have all those variations. But maybe we do. So let's actually just leave it for now. We might have to refactor the code to have smarter variations, even like having like choices within the variation itself. So small, medium, large, and then that would be the same price and all that. But I'm just going to leave it as small. I'll leave it as this. So small, and add another variation. Product 1, medium. Add another variation. And then large. Okay. So we swoop product 1, save. All right, so now we have small, medium, large. So we have these variations specifically for that product now. So if we open up single in our products and we scroll down to any one in here, we will now be able to get for product variation set.all. So for var or maybe item in product variation set.all, we can actually run through that. So now in a variation, we will leave out the color. We'll just leave it as color here. So now to have options for it, we'll do in4, but since we called this size, I'll just leave it at size. And now I can just do item.title, and I'll do lower, the filter of lower, to lowercase everything. And I'll do that. Oh wait, we actually don't need 3 more lines, we just need 1 line. And then item.title, and maybe cap first, so capitalized first. We did that already, but this is double checking, making sure. All right, so now that we have these variations, we have size twice, so I'm actually going to delete this other one that we had before. So now we should actually be able to see the variation for for that specific product if it's there. So what I'll also do is if product variation set.all and if. So if there even is a variation set, then let's see it, otherwise we won't show anything. Alright, so now let's go ahead and look at that product. We're going to product 1. We now see our 3 variations in here, which is great. So we can actually see those coming through, so we can actually start to work with them. So this is good. This is a great start. Now we have actual choices for our variations, but perhaps we want to make categories for the specific kinds of variations that we have. So let's actually go ahead and do that. So like in the last, right, so this one's size, that's a kind of variation. Maybe we'd want color and all that. Then what we'll do is we'll actually do variation, so var categories, just call it that. And now this is where we can set our categories for the variation in a tuple, so tuples of tuples, or tuple, whatever you want to call it. And I'm going to do, let's say, size as a type of category. Let's say color as a type of category. Let's say package as a type of category. So like if there's like a certain kind of package, like a gold package or a yellow package or whatever, we could do that. Let's say, what else could we do? Maybe like, let's just leave it at that. All right, so now we have different categories that it can be in. So in our variation, let's actually add a category section here. So category equals to models dot char field max length equals to 120, and choices equals to var categories, and I'll say default equals to size, because I actually definitely want to have a category here, and I'm going to set a default of size. So the category is definitely going to be a default of size in that case. We don't want the category to be empty, because now that we're adding in the category, so running schema migration, but now that we're adding in the category here, we definitely want to have every variation in one of these categories because of what we saw here, right? So this is where we would actually want to put that category itself, right? So otherwise we would have to kind of figure out what we're gonna do with that. All right, so now we can migrate the products. Cool, so now we have that. We go back in, and here, this is when we might want to do, so now instead of all, we might want to do a custom query set manager for the variation set. So let's go ahead and do that. So now that we have our category types, so our different variation types, let's run the server. So now that we have these categories going in the models, we see that we might want to use something different than just all every time. So when we're actually circling through our things, we want to make sure that all, I mean, maybe all works, but maybe it doesn't. So we want to have the separate variations specifically for that, so we can set up our form correctly, right? So for example, is what we would do is if product.variation set.sizes, or all sizes, but we'll just call it sizes. If sizes is there, then we will loop it through and we'll set this name to sizes. And then after that if, so we would have two ifs then, right? So now we have sizes here and we have all there. And then the next one would be like colors. So we would do color and then colors. Now, in order for these things to actually work, we have to set up our variation itself, right? So we have to actually set up this manager. So we'll do that real quick. And all we do is call objects equals to variation manager. And now we have to set up a manager. And all managers are doing, so I'm actually going to put it above this. I'll do class variation manager, models.manager. Managers allow us to customize our query sets. So just like what we saw before with sizes, we want to make one called sizes. So define sizes. And it's going to take in self. It's going to return super, so the super class, variation manager, and self. And then we're going to filter. Just going to filter all of them. So whatever is coming through, we're going to filter it with the category equaling to size. And then we can copy that exact same thing, category equal to color. And we called it colors. And change this to color. All right, so now it's actually going to show us those variations, and it's going to show it correctly. So one way to test this is actually to go ahead and take a look at our server. Our product, now it shows that it says small, and that's actually coming through, right? So we have sizes working, and that's because of this query set manager, or this model manager. It allows us to change the way functions work. Another thing that we can actually change is all, so def all. We want to take in self. We return super variation manager, self, filter, active equals to true, right? So that's probably a good idea, is to have active being equal to true, just like down here. So if this variation's not active, well, then we shouldn't show it. And that's for all of them, but that should also be for these other ones too. So I'm actually going to copy this and put it before that second filter, just because we want to filter everything that's active, and then we want to filter category. It doesn't actually matter. You could do vice versa, but this will make sure that we're getting all the active ones. All right. So there's that. We could also do filter self.all and then filter category. So this is actually taking this exact thing and doing that. So let's go ahead and refactor all that. So self.all.filter. Okay, so let's actually take a look. We do a refresh, it's still in there, it's still working. So let's go into our admin, and we will deactivate one of our variations. So large, we'll just hit unactivate it, All right. Going into product. Now we just see small and medium. Perfect. Okay, so now of course we could test this and add it to the cart, and it would in theory update everything. This one did actually update it because we have that small pulling through, but again, we want to update our cart later. In the next one, we'll actually update our cart items to handle this new way of doing variations. So we'll see you in the next one.